Hello there, I'm the Biblical Translator, and today's scripture is taken from 7-Eleven, and that's not the shop. It's Jesus raises a widow's son. Soon afterward, Jesus went with his disciples to the village of Nain, and a large crowd followed him. A funeral procession was coming out, and he approached the village gate. As he approached the village gate, the young man who had died was a widow's only son, and a large crowd from the village was with her. When the Lord saw her, his heart overflowed with compassion. "Don't cry," he said. Then he walked over to the coffin and touched it, and the bearer stopped. "Young man," he said, "I tell you to get up." Then the dead boy sat up and began to talk, and Jesus gave him back to his mother. Great fear swept the crowd, and they praised God, saying, "A mighty prophet is then among us, and God has visited his people today." And the news about Jesus spread throughout Judea and surrounding countryside. That sounds a bit like defying death again, doesn't it? But I think it's more to do with symbolism. I think on the one hand, we can believe that Jesus was able to bring the dead to life, or making the dead alive, heal the sick, and all those kind of things. But today, in order to relate to that, we have to look at it in a different way. Otherwise, it seems unbelievable, doesn't it? And it also defeats the object of Jesus even dying. Or does it mean certain people should die, certain people it's not their time to die? Does it show that God is superior over death? And that it's not when people say we're going to die. You get a lot of doctors diagnosing when people are going to die. Oh, you've only got 6 months to live, and then you find these people live 2 and 3 years. It really depends on their willingness to believe the GP or the doctor and defy that diagnosis. So whose lives are we? Who's in charge of our life? Are we in charge of our lives? Are the physicians in charge of our lives? Or is God in charge of our life? And I think here we see a good example where sometimes when you think there's no other way, it's dead, it's done, it's finished, a touch from God, a command from God can bring it back to life. New opportunities, new blessings, a new chance at life. And that boy, one minute he's dead in a coffin, the next minute he's sitting up talking. Change was as immediate as that. So how do we relate to that today? We can only relate to it in a form of, like I said, symbolism. That, when we think something is over, they have this phrase, it's not over until the fat lady sings. I don't quite understand that saying, but that means it's never over until everything is gone. There's no other way for things. You've done your ultimate best. And I'm not quite sure, like I said, it's never over till the fat lady sings. I should have really checked that out, but let me just do that quickly if I can. Excuse me about this, I should have done this before. It ain't over till the fat lady sings is a colloquialism which is often used as a proverb. It means that one should not presume to know the outcome of an event which is still in progress. More specifically, the phrase is used when a situation is nearing a conclusion. So, I guess that answers that question, doesn't it? So, raising the dead, the widow's son, her only son, and Jesus had compassion for her. Is death real? Is death in the mind? We have physical death, we have psychological death. We have that phrase, free our minds from mental slavery. Who's telling us that we're dead? I always used to fear death, only because I wondered how they knew a person was dead. Yeah, people can die, and I often visualize them. You know, you're not really dead. You want to say something, and, you know, they're throwing the stones on your coffin and that kind of stuff. And man determines what death is when you're dead. But are you really dead? And they reckon the last thing to go is your hearing. How long does your hearing last before they determine that you're dead? But I guess man's definition of death is different from God's definition of death. So we can't really query it. We just have to accept that the way they define death is the way death is in human form. So there's also the awakening of the dead in spirit. We can be dead in one way, and then those people who decide to be born again or decide to change their world around, they can actually become alive with a new spirit, and they become new people. I don't know if this is making sense. Yeah, I don't know if I'm making sense with this or whether I'm forcing it. I kind of feel as though I'm forcing it. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that when Jesus had compassion on that woman, why did he have compassion on something that was natural? And that's what I didn't understand. And when he has compassion for a natural process, what does that mean for us? I mean, in one part of the Bible it says don't grieve for the dead. You know, it's confusing. I think I'm going to need your help on this one. I think I'm going to need your comments, because I don't want to waffle. I've kind of given you some thoughts, but it's not clear. And I know when I read it, it wasn't one of those that flowed in a natural way. I would have liked it to flow in. So all I can say is that God rules over life. God rules over your circumstances. So don't give up. Don't just put the towel down and say it's over until you've done every possible thing to make sure that there's nothing else you can do. And only at that point, when you've done your best, you leave it to God to take over for you. And if it's your time, it will be your time. And if it's not, it won't. So your comments would be appreciated on this one. I need your help. Bye-bye.